today. Hi everybody and welcome to this live IntelliCorp webinar, how to audit SAP license use fast and accurately using LiveCompare. My name is Emma Dowie. I'm our marketing manager at IntelliCorp. I'm based in the UK in Bristol. With me on the call today is Dave Pickrell. He's our Director of Partner Business Development. He's in the States. And Tim Gerard, our Senior Application Engineer, who's based on the East Coast. So Dave is going to take you through a short introduction in a moment, really about the challenges of managing your SAP licenses. And then I'm going to hand it over to Tim, who's going to run through LiveCompare, smart software, which will get you the answers you need to your licensing challenges. So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping points. All the lines are muted today, so if you have any questions, please submit those to me throughout the demo, to me in the chat panel, and we'll try and get through as many of those as possible at the end. If we don't get to your question, if we don't have enough time, then we will follow up afterwards via email, so we will get back to you. And also the session is being recorded today. So afterwards we'll send out an email with the recording and the slides for you. So any questions, anything you need, then submit them to me as we go through the demo. And with that, Dave, I'm going to hand it over to you to start.
Okay. Thank you, Emma. And to all those joining today, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, in whatever part of the world you're in. As I'm sure you all already recognize, licensing for SAP is a particularly challenging set of issues. There are in excess of 112 different license types. There's indirect access licensing, engine licensing, and then to add to all of that, many customers have very unique licensing contracts. So during the negotiation for licenses with SAP, they identified some set of uniquenesses that SAP agreed to. So all of that makes for a very complex both license management and license audit challenge for you. And when you just normally begin to look, you may want to understand who dormant users are, who terminated users are. Just clean up the basic user counts so that you're really sure who's using the system, who's carrying a license is actually using a system. So what T-codes are they using? What frequency are they using them with? What authorization objects are included? Because you could, in fact, be paying for a full use license, professional license, but the way you've applied authorization codes to that license, the way you applied authorization codes to that license object, you are really not using a full professional license. You have many of you have multiple SAP production environments across the world. You may have different naming conventions for users in those systems. You may be pursuing role-driven licensing, and you may be assigning users specific T-codes. So all of that makes to a very complex set of licensing requirements. LiveCompare is a product that, next slide, Emma, yes. LiveCompare is a product that is much, much more than just a licensing product. It has in it some 200 plus templates that help you with everything from understanding impacted objects and custom code when you're doing an SAP upgrade or when you're applying support packs. It helps the development team identify what changes are needed to be made, the test team identify what things need to be tested, making sure transports have appropriate objects. So it's a much broader platform than just license management. However, as a license management tool, it has a number of pre-built templates already available to you that are very straightforward to implement. It is highly flexible, so it enables you to easily understand and adapt for any of the unique licensing characteristics that you have in your system and that you've negotiated in your contracts. It's a rules-driven platform, so it works very well to understand many different kinds of use criteria, so you can pull that use criteria and use understanding so you can apply it specifically to your licensing challenge. And then it very easily supports role-driven licensing as well as user T-code licensing. And Tim's going to show you a little more about that as we get to the demo. And with that, Tim, I'm going to pass it to you, and it's all yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dave. All right, so I'd like to first discuss the two license assignment methods that our customers have been using and have been using LiveCompare to support their license type management and audits. The first one, I think, is a more traditional approach in SAP. You run transaction SU01, and there you can assign your users a license type. And the second approach that we learned about a few years ago is more of a role-based driven approach. So just want to make it clear that LiveCompare can support both of these license type assignment methods. So a little bit of a background on the first method. In SAP, if you look at transaction SU01, you can type in a user, and let's do this one, and view their license type assignments. That's on this last tab here. So some of our customers will use this method, and they'll assign their users a license type. So let's give T. Benson a developer license and hit save. And from there, our LiveCompare workflows, they read data within SAP. And the core table here is USR 06. And if we look at this table, we can see the B names. Now, these are the accounts. I'll be using the term B name often. Think of B name as your account that you sign in as and your license type. So T. Benton has 63 and T. Gerard has 64, two different license types. So that's the more traditional approach. From there, once we determine users or active users and their license types, we then weigh their usage based on a T-code classification knowledge base that we have within the tool. So again, first we determine license type assignment, and then we weigh each user's usage based on our T-code classification knowledge base. And we have about 10,000 standard SAP T-codes classified. Some transactions, like time entry, are classified as an employee type transaction, prioritized very low. Whereas a transaction to create a vendor or do some kind of configuration, that may be higher that a full professional developer may have. So we have about 10,000 of these classified. Now the other approach, and we've learned about half of the customers that we've worked with are using this role-based approach. That is, they don't have data in the USR 06 table, and employees are assigned license types based on the highest category of role that they're assigned to. So you can have an employee with many roles assigned to them, an active employee, and based on the most critical role, they'll inherit that license type. And from there, you don't need a knowledge base because there's a formula right in LiveCompare that will categorize and prioritize every T-code that you use based on the role that it's assigned to. And there's also some smart filtering in there too that I'll show you as we go along. In each approach, the end result is a summary like this along with some backing details. Let me take you through this picture here. It's all about allotment, assignment, and usage. Now, when we look at the allotment for, say, full professional in this example, full professional license type 52, we can see that we have an allotment of 700. So that's the number of licenses that you've purchased through SAP. And when we look in the SAP system, whether role-based or USR06-based, we see that you actually have assigned 710 of these license types. So from an audit perspective, right away you may be a bit nervous, you may be over your allotment in terms of assignments, and if this information is brought up during an audit, it might be of concern. The key thing that we weigh is the usage. So 590, when we actually look at the active accounts assigned to full professional, 590 are actually using SAP transactions that are related to full professional. So we can see that we are, 210 accounts under the allotment. So we're in good shape in terms of that audit. Now you may ask, well, how are we 210 under? Like Dave mentioned, some of these accounts might be dormant or terminated. Others may be using SAP, but only using SAP for time entry, or to view a benefits report, or to run an ABAP query, something that a full professional, really doesn't really need to have, right? You don't need that much power to do time entry. Maybe at the time of new hire, they thought the person would be a full professional, but as time went on, they realized that they're just using SAP to do time entry and run reports. So there's a number of reasons why you may fall short with your usage onto what you're actually assigned. And we do the same thing with all of your license types. So these are popular categories here: professional, limited, and employee, 52, 53, and 54. So for each one, we look at the allotment, assignment, and usage all the way down. And for this example, there's 3. You may have more, and you may have more systems too, and that can all be on this chart here. That is ECC and all of your other modules. So the theme going forward is going to be allotment, assignment, and usage. And from here on, I'll talk about how we determine each category. Now, the first step is allotment. So we have 3 we have 3 contractual user types here at the sample company. 52 is our full professional, and we have 700 number of seats purchased, or a 700 allotment of your full professional. Your next one is your limited professional, 53s, and we purchased, say, 500 limited professional seats. And finally, license type 54, employee, we have 1,500. Now, it's quite easy to prioritize these. The first one is the most significant. The second is, the limited, and the third is the employee. So this is actually a manual effort that you have to do before you run LiveCompare, and it takes about 5 minutes. Understand what license types you have, and then prioritize them. The next step is to prioritize your roles. So we have full professional role here, 52, and we have, in the full professional category, we have 3 roles: GFI Master, MM Admin, and Controller. All of these are appropriate to assign to a full professional when they come on board. So that's our bundle of full professional type roles. So each one of these bullet points here is related to a role, and they all belong to the full professional category. Again, this is another manual effort that you have. And the customers that we worked with this role-based approach, they already have this information in a spreadsheet or in some kind of document. When their security folks put on a new hire, they see if they're a full professional, they look into that document or spreadsheet to understand what roles are appropriate to assign to that individual. So far, with our customers, they already know their roles and what license types they should be appropriately assigned to. Then you have your limited professional type of roles: display GL accounts, sales orders, and material numbers. And finally, we have 3 roles related to our employee, so like time approval, time entry, and benefits. So at the end of the day, you'll have a 2-column report, a list of all of your, and let me just erase all of this. You'll have a 2-column report. The aggregate name is all of your roles that you assigned to production, and the second column, priority, how you prioritize those roles. based on, 1, we prioritize as a full professional, 2 is limited, and 3 is employee. So from here on, LiveCompare crunches all of the data. So again, you have to plug in your allotments and your prioritization of roles, and then from here on, there's a formula in the background that determines the assignments. So let's first talk about the user assignment formula. We have an employee, an active account, with 3 roles assigned to her. ZFI Master Data Manager is the first role. That role has 3 transactions, ZZ01, 02, and 03. The second role she has is Display GL account. That also has 3 transactions, ZZ03, and 2 ABAP query transactions. And her third role is the time approver. She's a manager, and she has to approve of her employees, her teammates' times. So she can enter in her own time, approve time, and view reports. So based on these 3 roles, how would you, what do you think this account would be appropriately assigned to in terms of a license type, a contractual license type? A 1, a full professional. So accounts inherit their most significant role that they're assigned to. So even though that this person has 3 roles and they're all over the place, because they have at least 1 full professional role, the user assignment equals 1. So just to recap, we talked about how to enter in our allotments, and this is how we determine assignments. Users are, they inherit the most significant license type assigned role. Okay? Now we also prioritize the T-codes within the roles, because eventually we have to weigh your assignment versus actual usage. So we need to get down into the T-code level. And when we do that, we see that ZZ01 and 02, we prioritize as a 1, a full professional. Now T-codes are a little bit different. They inherit the least significant role that they belong to. And if you look at ZZ03, it's not always a 1-to-1. In other words, ZZ03, a T-code can be related to more than 1 role. So you could have like a massive full professional role, right, with maybe 20 transactions, and some of them might be ABAP queries and maybe time entry if that's the way your security folks do it. So they can't all be full professional. The create and displays here, or create and change, those are full professional. But this ZZ03, this is to view something. It's also assigned to a limited professional role in display GL accounts. So that inherits a 2. And finally, these 3 transactions inherit the least, 3 per employee license type. So now that we've prioritized the roles, the T-codes, and the users, we can start crunching all this data to determine the next step, which is your usage score. So now, if you remember that first graph that I showed you, that was a summary of all of the accounts. So in order to get a summary of all of the active accounts, we have to give each account a score. And that score is based on what you use in production, what transactions, executable programs, WAPA objects, those are your Fiori apps, what are you actually using in production? When we look at what this account is using, we see ZZ03 is used, an ABAP query is used, and all 3 of her time approval and entry transactions are used. So based on this account's usage, how do you think LiveCompare determines or assigns her a score? If you guess 2, you're right. She should be a limited professional. Okay, she does use a ZZ03, and that is part of a full professional role, but that transaction's also in the limited professional role. So you could remove that full professional role. She could still run ZZ03, and if you couldn't, you could assign her a role that has ZZ03 in it that's a limited professional, and she could still do the job that she needs to do. So in this example, we found a person who was assigned a full professional, but her usage would be more accurately prioritized as a limited professional. That's how we crunch all this data, and that's how we can save our customers a lot of license type costs by accurately giving each account a score based on actual usage. Okay, so in summary, you install LiveCompare, which takes about an hour. Prioritize your types, it takes about 5 minutes. Your roles might be already prioritized, and then run. And then one keynote, a couple keynotes here, when prioritizing key codes, additional rules can be applied within LiveCompare. So we support volume thresholds, and any kind of combination of authorization rules. Maybe you have different activities within the same transaction, and if you use a transaction, say, over 100 times, and it has an activity 0, 1, that enables it to be full professional. You can put those conditions right in LiveCompare. So we still have about 10 minutes. I'd like to log into LiveCompare and give you a demo, if that's okay. So now I'm logging into LiveCompare. Okay, so you can see all my apps here that I've downloaded from the LiveCompare App Store. And here are my two apps, license type analysis by role or by that more traditional method, USR02. So let's first take a look at the role. And we can see we already did an ECC 2016 audit. Let's do one for 2017. So ECC 2017 audit. And then to run it, we simply select our production system out of our drop-down here. We enter in our allotments with our license type priority, description, ID, and our number of seats that we purchased. And if you need to remove or add a row, it's really simple in this app format. You can also paste in a list if you had more than 3 and you just wanted to paste it in from Excel. We support that too. Next, we look at the start and end date. This is for your usage. So we're doing a 2017 audit. I'm going to select January 1st through today and hit run. Okay, so now it's running. It runs very fast, LiveCompare, and now it's finished. Okay, and I can share these results to a team or post it on SharePoint. Let's go ahead and open them. We see our professionals, our limited employee, and if I click on the chart, I get the same information in Excel with all the backing data. So here's our summary. Let's look at the scorecard per account. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. This first B name, again now B names are the accounts in SAP. They're using 0 professional transactions, 0 limited transactions. They're only using 1 transaction, and that 1 transaction is appropriate for an employee type, license type assignment. So this person is assigned an employee, and this is the LiveCompare recommendation, this column here. So after our analysis, here's our LiveCompare recommendation. So these first 2 are fine. But let's take a look at this one. This person is using 10 limited transactions. Okay, they're assigned in production a full professional. But based on their usage, we recommend them to be taken away from full professional and to be assigned a limited professional because they're only using 10 transactions and none of them are full professional. So let's take a look at what those transactions are. I'm just going to copy the account name and filter by that account name. And here are the 10 transactions. So I see a lot of views, nothing here that would be a full professional transaction. Here's the TCode count. This is how often they're using it from January to today. And the TCode priority. These are all limited professional type transactions. Okay, and now the next question is, well, what role is assigned to this person that's given them full professional type of an assignment? So we go to this sheet here, we paste in our B name, we have a list of all the roles. So these first 4 are okay, but this account does have a couple full professional roles. But as we know, based on their usage, they're not using any transactions related to these roles. So maybe we can safely remove these away, and then the highest role that this person would have would be a priority 2, which is your limited professional. Okay, so that's how it works. So in summary, like I said, LiveCompare runs in about an hour, or installs in an hour. You upload your data, maybe to 5–10 minutes, and you run it. and we support both the role-driven approach as well as your traditional SU01. Both approaches will get you the summary that you see here. At this time, I'd like to open up the webinar to any questions.
Thanks very much, Tim. Let me just share my screen. So just to summarize, really, Tim went through LiveCompare and how it can be used to, really self-audit what you're using and identify your licenses based on your allotments, what's assigned, and then your actual use. And this is fact-based information into your license use, not guessing, not error-prone. So I'm just going to go through some of the questions that have come through. We've had quite a few, Tim. So does the software run in SAP, or do I need separate hardware?
You do need a web server. A lot of our customers install virtual machines. You install LiveCompare on that web server and then create an RFC call into LiveCompare. There's also a LiveCompare transport that goes into the SAP environment as well.
Okay, great. Another question which came through, how is it connected to SAP systems?
We use a remote function call. So once the LiveCompare transports are in the SAP system, from the LiveCompare server, we remote call into either a dialog user or a system account that has the appropriate roles assigned to that account. And from there, we can communicate. We do have an option for some of our customers who may be early in adopting LiveCompare, maybe at a proof of concept phase. We can install the full transports and say dev QA in a copy of production. But when it comes to production, we can do what's called a native RFC call and grab all that used transactional data that I showed earlier. So you don't need to install a LiveCompare transport in production. If that's ever an issue, we can still extract that data through the safe SAP native approach.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Another question that came through was, how is allotment number captured? How do you capture that? Is that manually captured?
That's in your contractual user type. I forgot the exact name of the document. I see a lot of folks store that in Solution Manager, or one of your security managers would have that or access to that document.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Another question that came through, sorry, there are quite a lot of questions, so I'm just trying to scroll through. If we don't get through to your question, then I promise we will follow up via email afterwards. One question is, what type of effort is required to get LiveCompare up and running in terms of, how quickly can I get these reports and results?
Well, I put LiveCompare installs in an hour. Actually, you can install LiveCompare on a web server in 5 minutes. It's like installing a software. It's wizard driven. You hit next, next, next on all the pop-ups. You might want to read the screen first, and sometimes you have to enter in a local account with some password. But it's very fast. It's very fast to load LiveCompare on the web server, and then the rest of it is just applying transports to all the systems that you want to connect to. And the final piece is creating that RFC to the SAP environments. From a technical perspective, it all can be done within probably 15, 20 minutes at the most. But realistically, you have to get approvals to move the transports throughout the environments. Security has to create the either dialog or system ID and apply the rules. That's usually 2 different groups that move the transports and create the IDs, and another group to get the server ready. So, you want to give yourself a full day, depending on the size of the organization. But technically speaking, it can be all set up within 20 minutes.
Great, thanks, Tim. Another question, how do we determine active accounts?
Good question. We look at the table USR02, and we find all active accounts where the U flag, which is your locked indication, is 0. So we get all non-locked accounts. The next thing we do is we look at where it says user type A. Now, A's are all your dialog accounts. By default, we just do the dialog, but you can do A and B and I think C and S if you want to do your system ones as well. It's very easy to add license types, user types to that active account pull out of that table. And the final thing we do is there's a valid to date, and if you use it, we do date greater than today. So every user who has a valid to date that's greater than today, and we dynamically calculate today's date to determine that it's greater than today. So we capture all of your 12/31/9999s, as well as people who are terminating or leaving in in the near future. And if you don't use that field, we also pull in all of your zeros or null values. So we have that field completely covered to determine all of your active accounts.
Okay, thanks, Tim. I've got about another 7 or 8 questions to go through, but I am very conscious that we're out of time now. So we will get back to you via email. Tim, Dave, thanks very much for your time today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you have any further questions or anything you think of, then please drop us a line. All the emails are on screen right now. I'll leave it open for another couple of minutes. But if there's anything you need, then please get in touch. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Dave.